Welcome back to the Freelance Network podcast, everybody. A podcast by content creators for content creators. Today is a very exciting day because we are recording on a brand new audio board. The old one, it was much appreciated for its services.
Mm-hmm. But thank you, Stockton, for upgrading us
so
we can have a better quality podcast.
Yes. I mean, granted, the quality, our talking is the same. We're still lovely, but now it'll just sound better and be easier to edit,
Absolutely.
which is great.
Yeah. So it won't be potato. So anyway, today we have a very special guest, one of my old friends, Chris Famularo. He introduce yourself.
Hi, I am Chris Famularo. I have known Cassie for, what year is it? 2020 now? So
2020.
5 years.
Yeah. We went to community college together.
Shout out to OCC.
Yeah. I love that place. But we had almost all of our TV production classes together. And our last capstone class, Chris and I co-produced our final project. So that was really cool, and we got to work together with that. And we both graduated together, and he went on to Seton Hall when I went on to another school that I'm not going to name. And so we're going to have him talk about that. So Chris, tell us about how you got into production, because I know you have an interesting story about that, and then tell us about your college experience.
Yeah, I mean, like Cassie said, we met at OCC. I originally wasn't really trying to go to a community college, but thankfully my parents were like, no, you're going to go. You're going to go. And it's going to be for a good thing. And it turned out to be, as adults who knew things did. And I was just a silly 18-year-old who was like, I want to go away to school. But it worked out for the best because I spent a very, very good, helpful 2 years at OCC. And like you said, getting into television, I mean, I grew up, I always watched TV, loved TV, always wondered how it was made, what got people into it, loved movies, music, everything that went into media. I still do take everything I can from it. But when I was in high school, I was really unsure, as so many people are, as to what I wanted to learn. For a while, I thought I wanted to go into computer engineering or coding and stuff like that, because I'm a big video game person, and I always also, just as much how I wondered how TV and video movies were made, I wondered how video games were made, and I knew that coding was a part of that. I thought I wanted to do that, and that's when I registered for OCC, because community college isn't like a regular university where you apply and you see if you get accepted. You just register, and they're like, all right, come on in. So I went, I registered under what I thought was something having to do with computers, which at the time I registered for the major of digital mass media. It just proves how dumb I was then, because you just have to read the name, and it has nothing to do with computers.
Not at all.
It says media in the name. So, not even thinking about it, I went to the orientation in the summer before the semester started. And you know how orientation goes. I'm sure you do as well. They sit you down and like, all right, here are the classes that you need to take your first semester. Mm-hmm. And one of those classes is always specific to your major. And for my major, our major, it's television studio production.
Yes.
I read that and I went, huh?
Yeah.
What? And then I looked at the rest of it, and I didn't see anything that had to do with computers. And at that point, I'm too far in. I am already too far in. So I'm like, all right, I'll just go with it. And of course, the semester starts with television studio production. It was my only class I had on a Wednesday. It was a 3.5-hour course.
I never forget that.
Don't know why it was that long, but I'm sure glad it was, because we had a lot of good times in that class. Mm-hmm. So then we went the first day. We met our wonderful Professor Kobus and a lot of our other friends that we would then, grow alongside of. And he lectures us for about 45 minutes, maybe, after we all introduce ourselves to everybody else. And he goes, all right, everybody, we're going to head down to the TV studio and we're going to make an episode. And we're like, wait, what? What's going on? Because normally, everybody knows how syllabus week goes. You go, you read the syllabus, and then you usually leave. Mm. That was not what Kobus was doing for his first day. I mean, it's 3.5 hours. Good for him to make us actually do something on the first day.
Yeah.
So then we go down, and one of our friends, TJ, volunteered to be the director, and I, for some reason, volunteered to be talent. And I acted out a scene with another student, Ryan. And that's what we did for the rest of the class, was just we stumbled our way through making an episode of TV, and I'm sure we didn't record anything. It didn't look well, but everybody was just learning what was going on. And it was the most fun I had ever had in a classroom. And I was like, I remember going home and talking to my parents. I was like, I just made TV. I can't wait to go back. And that class was once a week. Mm-hmm. How rough is that? Your first class that you go to college and you love it, and you have to wait a whole week to go back. And then just from there, I mean, I made so many friends in that class. Sadly, Cassie, we didn't meet until the second semester.
Yeah, so the way that the digital mass media program works there is there's 4 like core classes for it, and then usually there's like 2 sections max. So I was in the other section I did Wednesdays, but I did it at 8 a.m.
Yeah.
So I had like the first class, I had a completely different class with different people, but my experience was kind of the same because I had no experience in TV whatsoever, and I just took that major just like, hey, whatever,
yeah.
I'll do it. And I walked in and I'm like, oh, I'm making television on the first day. Like you just said, like they threw us into it, but then you quickly knew then and there, like you either like it or you don't. And like all of us liked it.
Yeah.
So,
shout out to Cobus for throwing you guys in. 'Cause it's like, it's cool that like neither of you even had the idea. It wasn't on your radar.
Mm-hmm. I only declared that major because it only required 1 math course. So
Math is the worst.
Math is the worst. So yeah, he threw us into it, and you know, so we met the second class, and I can't remember. I think it was like field production.
I think that was the first field production course.
Yeah, so
or it was called on location production.
On location, yeah, and then we had that one. The next one, I think, was edited.
I think I can actually remember the name of the course. It went TV studio production, on location production, post-production, and then news broadcast production was the last course.
Yeah, we had all of those together, but not the first one. But yeah, thank you for remembering that, because
I don't know why I do.
I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, so throughout OCC and everything, continue on how, you know, you picked Seton Hall to go to and everything. So.
Well, I mean, from OCC, I didn't really look at many other schools. From what mainly my viewpoint, and this was something we talked a lot about at the time, was just finding the school that really met your desires and your needs for what you were looking for. And I remember Professor Kobus was great about it. He gave us websites to go on to look at what schools will accept your credits, what schools will have the classes you're looking for, relevancy to cities, you know, whether you're near New York or Philadelphia or somewhere else, or internship possibilities. So I remember just going onto that website and looking up the best communications school in New Jersey, and you know, number 1 was Princeton, which I was not getting into. I'm not getting into an Ivy League school, and number 2 was Seton Hall. And I had already known Seton Hall. I mean, my girlfriend had already been going there, so it was already on my radar. I had visited a number of times. I loved the campus. It's in a pretty good area in South Orange. It's right by Newark. It's not far from New York. The internship possibilities in New York are just, you know, endless, and it's that's a huge selling point that Seton Hall will provide to you if you ever look it up. So everything was just pointing me towards Seton Hall. I mean, I knew people there. I had already met the associate dean of the program. He had already asked me to apply. Things were just pointing me in that direction. You know, it seemed like that's where I had to go. So I applied in, I want to say December of 2016, because we graduated in May of 2017. I got my acceptance letter the first week of February of 2017 with my scholarship and with, you know, my dates to come to an open house and to meet these certain people, and it was great. And there's very few things that in that early point in your life when you're figuring out adulthood and everything, very few things really match up being accepted into a college that you really wanted to go to and you felt was best for you. So that was an awesome feeling. And then I went through the process, went to the open house, met the dean again, met the associate dean and stuff like that, and then went to orientation in August when I moved in. And then just from there, I knew Pirate TV was there. I knew I wanted to be a part of it, and I knew that Seton Hall has a pretty big radio station called WSOU. They are, funny enough, a huge metal radio station, which I would become a part of during my time there. But the first thing I really got involved in was Pirate TV. I went to their, in their involvement hours, and I showed my interest and I expressed it. Also, the TV courses that I had to take, the studio course I had to take at Seton Hall required 10 volunteer hours at Pirate TV. So that already got me in the studio. And then once I was there, I knew what I wanted to be there. I knew that Seton Hall was the place where I had to really prove myself if I wanted to be a part of this industry. And they gave me great opportunities. I remember, the first weekend of September, I was on location being a reporter for a soccer game, doing a post-game analysis. I had no idea what I was doing. I had barely ever been on camera, especially not on location covering live sports and, interviewing athletes and coaches. I just knew I had to say yes, because otherwise I wasn't going to get another opportunity like that. And thankfully, I met people like me at Pirate TV. I didn't think I was going to meet people who had the same work ethic or the same drive or the same desire to create content, but also better myself in the field and also just to make friends. They're great friends. And I, still talk to them just as much as I still try and talk to you guys. It's just, that's the thing about college is my main thing I took away from is you just can't say no.
Yeah.
You have to put yourself out there. And if you do, things will come to you. And then my goal for my first year at Seton Hall was to get on camera for our in-studio sports talk show and get on air for the radio station. And I managed to do both of those things my first year, which was awesome. And then at the end of the first year, I was offered a producer role with Pirate TV, and then I became a co-sports director, which was awesome. It gave me so much responsibility in an area that I had never had. I was scheduling talent. I was producing new shows. I was producing segments. I was teaching other people how to do what I went to school for. And that's the main thing. Was my first year was me going and learning not to say no. And my second year was telling other people not to say no. It gave me experiences to share my wealth, and that made me feel good.
I think being able to give back that to people that were once in the situation you were in is one of the best feelings.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because you necessarily didn't have a person to tell you what to do or how to get to that place. And like you said, don't say no. That is so true, where opportunities don't always just show up. And if you say no, they might not ask you again.
Yeah.
And the fact that you did, it was like a snowball effect of you're here and you have knowledge from OCC. But a lot of times I feel like people sleep on transfer students. They don't think we know as much. And just because we didn't start there, which I get that we didn't go through the same things you guys did, but you don't know people until you get to know them.
Yeah.
But you came in with that expectation, people not knowing you or not knowing anything, and then it turned into you're a producer coming up with segments. That's awesome.
Yeah, I want to give credit to both of the schools that I was at, because OCC showed me just as much not to say no, and I thank a lot to Professor Kobus, but also our classmates really pushed each other. Oh, yeah. Because just like at Seton Hall, where we had volunteer hours where we had to go to PTV, for Kobus's classes, we had to volunteer to work events at OCC. And since OCC is a community college and it's a public school, there's events happening all the time. We had to direct either dance recitals or choruses or plays. We covered the community college soccer tournament of New Jersey. Mm-hmm. That's crazy. I mean, we got these cool experiences I never would have thought to have. I was... This is one of my favorite experiences from OCC, but I remember sitting in one of those hooded tractor trailers with a camera like the one we're on now, but had an extended zoom lens and everything, in the rain and the wind, and I'm bundled up in a windbreaker and gloves on, and I'm just sitting there watching soccer, but also filming it, and having a director in my ear and thinking I wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
Yeah.
And that's when I was I know this is what I need to do. And this is what I want to do, is because I want to be able to make this content and be proud of it. Mm-hmm. And I still feel that way. I just worked last night, and we had a really busy day with teetering on making breaking news. And that's crazy feeling, just always having to be prepared. And I remember going home last night and feeling fulfilled and feeling like I was part of not breaking news, but just part of stuff that people sit home and watch and either feel entertained or informed or excited that they were a part of it. And I think that's one of the coolest things about what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with OCC specifically, we are like just thrown into these situations, and they, from day one, like we've mentioned, they have you hands-on with stuff. And I found that, I don't know if this happened at Seton Hall, but every college that I transferred to after OCC, they all knew that we did that there, and they were like, you're ahead of what we like teach here. Because the school that I transferred to after OCC, I went in, and they're like, oh, you're from Ocean County College. And I was like, yeah, you know about that? And they're like, yeah, like your student, every time you have a transfer student from OCC, they always are ahead of our students because we don't let our students touch equipment until junior year.
Well, I wonder why.
Yeah.
But
anyway,
it just doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. And then I transferred here, and that was one of the first comments that my advisor made was like, oh, you're from OCC. And I'm like, why does everybody keep saying that? And they're like, we don't allow, like, not that they don't allow us to touch the equipment until a certain time, but like they don't start like introducing students to like shoots and stuff until they're like upperclassmen. And I don't understand why universities do that.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it was like that at Seton Hall or it's just the two schools that I've.
No, so I was in a interesting point with Seton Hall because when I went, I technically did I transferred in as a junior. Thankfully, I transferred with all my credits. But I was in the intro TV studio courses because you transfer to that school for that major. They want you to take the classes, even though I had already learned what we were going over.
Been there, brother.
Yeah. Pretty much everyone who's transferred knows that feeling.
Yeah.
But I'm thankful that I did because even though like my year when I did it, most of them, you had to be at least a sophomore, which is still better than most, but it's, having to wait a whole year to want to do this, that stinks. But it's the extracurricular groups like PTV and WSOU at Seton Hall, where I made it my emphasis along with my co-producers to put no limit on, not even on, year, but major. PTV, we were so excited our year as producers because we were a whole new slate of producers. When we became producers in training, all the other producers were seniors. So we basically took over the reins entirely. There was no returning producer from when we became the whole group. So our whole goal was to not change PTV, but kind of change the vibe of it from having to be a TV major or a radio major or a communications major to anyone can come here. If you have some sort of interest in any facet of television, whether it's sports, news, entertainment, anything, you can come and you can be a part of it, and we'll teach you how to learn, like how to work the equipment. So PTV had no restriction on it. We would help you learn field equipment. We'd help you learn audio, video, coiling cables. If you were interested in the engineering side, we had work study students that would connect you with the chief engineer for our TV studio. So that was our whole goal, was to not limit anyone from being a part of it, because there were a number of us that had felt that limit at some point or another. So we didn't want those people to have to feel that.
That's great. That really is great.
I think, because like one thing that we're going to talk about that you mentioned to us is like other majors can bring other things to this stuff. Like we may know how to use the gear and we're trained in it, but everybody brings something different to the table. It's just a matter of the barrier of they're intimidated, they don't know how to use this stuff. Well, we know, and we want to teach them. You know?
Yeah,
so
absolutely. So, okay. So moving forward, to get out of college, what do you do now? Tell us about your job now.
Yeah, so I am currently a freelance stage manager / A2 or audio assistant, as well as a robotics camera operator with SportsNet New York, based out of New York and Lower Manhattan. They are the flagship station of the New York Mets, as well as the New York Jets, but they cover all facets of New York sports. But I started out, actually, my technically one and only internship from when I was at Seton Hall was my last semester. I was a newsroom intern with SNY. I made a lot of connections. I talked to as many people as I could, editors, producers, predators, APs, PAs, directors, whoever I could. And I basically found out who I needed to talk to get a job in the crew side of TV. Because I basically have known since I was at Seton Hall that I preferred crew rather than pre-production. I love pre-production, but there's nothing for me that matches the making of TV. So I found out that I needed to talk to the chief technical manager at SNY, and basically for the last 2 months of my internship, every day I was at SNY, I talked to him. Gave him my resume, told him my interests, told him what courses I was taking, what I was doing with PTV, what I was doing with WSOU, what I loved about SNY, what I think I could do to SNY. whatever I could think of, I asked him. He asked me questions back. It was great, and thankfully, come the end of my internship, they offered me a freelance position, which was, my gateway in to the TV industry. As both of you know, getting into this industry is hard. I'm in it now, and finding other jobs are hard. Yeah. But that was a step in. Mm-hmm. And, I had one of my close friends tell me while I was applying for internships, everybody hits a certain point in college where it just gets hard, just inexplicably hard, emotionally, creatively, scholastically. You just hit a wall. And sometimes you need just someone to kind of knock you out of it or pull you out of it. And thankfully I had a lot of those people, but I had my roommate, who pulled me out of it and helped me. But he also told me that, they just need to see you. They just need to see you work, and they'll never let you go. They won't. That made me feel valued in my work, because I wasn't feeling valued in the resume sending and the applications and the cover letter writing, and just hearing nothing, or the very few no's that you actually get. Thank you for applying, but we're moving on. This, that, or doing rounds of interviews just to be told no or not hear anything. It's a very disheartening procedure, and it's not just in our field. Everybody deals with it, but especially when you're in your last semester of college and you're applying to internships and you haven't gotten a single one, it hurts. And then to finally get your internship and have that internship turn into a job, that was a nice break. It felt good. Yeah. So that's where I'm at now. I'm at SNY.
I think something you touched on is how you would rather be crew than take part in the pre-production stuff. And this is why, I loved OCC so much, because we were kind of trained to be the crew. We're ready to be the crew. And transferring to different schools, obviously you found your niche with Seton Hall. I was struggling a little bit when I left OCC, because especially this school, they don't train you to be crew. They train you to be the story, go out and get the story, be the person who does the pre-production. You're going to be the producer, you're going to be the director. That's what they think. That's the only track. And then when I go and say, I want to be crew, no one knows what to do. And they're like, oh, whatever. So I went through this period where I was extremely lost. And after I was rejected from NBC for an internship, I lost it, because I was just does no one want crew? Is this not a thing? And just hearing you validate that you're on the same mindset and you were able to go out and whatever, that helps me a lot, because there's literally maybe one person here that I've talked to that's oh yeah, I want to be crew. And I'm is this just not a popular thing? So I'm glad that there's I don't have to be part of that pre-production, and I actually can go out and just get a crew job, because when you ask, they're oh no, you have to start with everything and work your way up. And I'm I don't understand how you have to work your way up to crew if you're trained for it. That's something that confuses me, going out and just getting it. I don't know, that kind of just validated that I can.
Well, a lot of the time I think when people think of television, a lot of the time people think of almost first and foremost a director. After that, you have your producers, any level between executive or associate or regular producers, and then after that you think of actors, or whatever one you think of first. It's those three is what you think of. Nobody ever thinks of the people who actually physically put it all together. It's funny when family, I guess, is talking. Whenever you talk to your family about anything that you're doing, most of them don't understand. But in our field specifically, most of them don't know what an A2 or an audio assistant would do. I mean, I don't know. I have family members who work in, the medical field. I don't know what every single person does. So it's not like a special thing. But I don't think people realize how many people go into a 30-minute production of live television. Mm-hmm. For an SNY show, there's usually 2 stage managers, a jib operator, a robotics camera operator, a video operator who also does lighting, a director, a technical director, a graphics operator, a teleprompter operator, your production assistant, associate producer, coordinating producer, and then your graphics coordinator, who is also a producer. Mm-hmm. That's like 15 people.
Not enough fingers.
I don't have enough fingers for how many people are a part of this process.
And that's one show, and you don't know how any show operates. I mean, hour-long shows, and also to think about like all the pre-production people, all the post-production people, and then like everybody's always like, well, why are movie credits so long? It's because it takes an army to make these things. And it's not just movies, it's everything. It's like a 3-minute music video takes a ton of people to make. It doesn't matter how long it is. It's like always just like, oh, it's just making movies, it's just filming, whatever, but it's not. It's like a ton of people put in a ton of work to make it. And it's like if one person doesn't do their job, it's like a domino effect of like everything else starts to go wrong, and then people have to pick up slack.
Yeah, I mean, I always love to think of television as, everything, it's like a chain circle. If one of those links isn't linked properly, if not on the right, your chain and your link is just going to fall apart. That's what every television production, no matter how small the role, if that role's not fulfilled in its right capacity, it's all going to fall apart. A lot of places in introductory roles, a teleprompter operator. If that talent hasn't properly read their script prior to the show and the teleprompter operator either messes up or something goes wrong, the whole thing can snowball.
Yeah.
And once a show starts snowballing, it just builds and builds and builds, and then that's how you have shows get canceled. Yeah. And I work in live television. It's so different seeing a narrative TV show get made, similar to how movies are made. There are days and days and days to get a 4-minute scene or something like that. And I work in one aspect of media that is hard in its own right, and it's different from other forms of media. And I would love to see all forms of them, but right now this is where I am, and I thoroughly enjoy the process of it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. It's one of the first, or the first guest that finally is in my niche. So I feel
Jordan.
Well, yes, but one of the first.
Jordan's gonna be offended later.
I love you, Jordan. Come on.
I'm gonna tell Jordan.
No.
Yeah.
You don't need to tell her.
I'm going to.
We're good.
Yes.
But yeah. So yeah. All right. So you're at SportsNet New York, and so what is your like end goal with everything in TV? Like, what's your dream job?
Yeah, my dream job at the moment, and I would like to keep this and make it an actual reality, is I would like to become a director in sports television. I have always grown up watching sports. I enjoy them. I think they bring a lot of great fun for one person or a whole room. I mean, the Super Bowl is the biggest event of the year, and that's sports. So I want to become a director, mainly because from my small experience I have from Pirate TV, that's what I would always assign myself the role of when we were doing the shows that I was in charge of. I just enjoyed the creative process of coordinating with people who came up with the ideas, finding out how I can get my cameras in these positions, how I can make my talent look, and the order of how everything goes. I think there's a lot of creative freedom, but also challenges that comes with directing. It's a very important role. And I think I strive for that importance. I like being in an important role in this process, and I would like to have my name be on a piece of television that people enjoy and provide sports. And I think at some point I also want to work in live sports, being either a box on location director for like live games or even live events. I would love to do. I think that would be a true goal, is to work one of those live events.
That's awesome. All right. So, do you have any more questions about career before I get on to our question?
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
So, what I'm curious about is, like, coming from, like, so much live experience and stuff, like, what's like a different branch of creating that you would love to get your hands on and just try and figure out, whether it's music, TV, film, like any of that? Like what are you most interested in that has nothing to do with what you've studied for years?
That's a hard question
man.
to think about on the spot.
Like,
I
still-
love asking people this, because for me, I would love to get into live studio stuff more. I did live studio stuff every morning in high school. I'm stalling for you, by the way. Every single morning, like I would be anchor, director, technical director. I did that in high school only. And then when I got to college, I was like, all right, movies. So like that's what I've been focusing on. But then especially hearing you guys talk about it, it makes me miss those days of just like, I'd love to get into that more. So like, I mean, for you, you don't have to give me like the end all be all answer, but what's something you're interested in?
I genuinely miss making like long form, nonfiction stuff. I mean, I did a documentary when I was at Seton Hall on my sister's music magazine, and that required multiple weeks of shooting, production, editing. I traveled out to Philly 2 different weekends in a row, one to get an interview and one to do basically B-roll footage, but also live show footage for the music that she writes about and stuff like that. So doing long form stuff has always been interesting to me. That's the kind of stuff that television stations, like 30 for 30 is something that enthralls me.
Yes.
Not only because I'm a sports fan, but just because the amount of effort that goes into something like that.
Yep.
Because it brings the journalistic aspect. If it's something that is a problem, I guess the one that I could bring up is on O.J. Simpson, the 30 for 30.
Yeah, that one was
or
juicy.
The 30 for 30s that cover live sports that are basically like real life miracles.
Well, I think 30 for 30 is a great example too, because it combines TV, it combines documentary, it combines journalism, storytelling, and like, I don't know if you've watched any of them, but the NFL for the 100th anniversary have been doing amazing specials similar to 30 for 30, where they rank the 100 greatest games of all time, the 100 greatest players of all time, and each one they have like a round table of just great football minds, and then with like photos, magazines, newspaper articles, footage of just like compiling it all. So I think that's kind of like that.
Yeah.
Where I agree, throwing yourself into like a long-term project, like a documentary, and just like thinking about that only, doing the research, getting the footage, like that was a lot of fun.
The other thing that I would love to be a part of is a Planet Earth shoot or a BBC Earth shoot.
Oh my God.
Ooh.
They seem so fun.
I mean, I wrote my senior thesis on Planet Earth 2 specifically.
I would like to read it.
I don't know where it is now. I mean, my laptop kind of died from school, but
I feel like every single one of the people in this major's laptop dies at some point while they're in college.
well, it's because they get worked on.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
I did video editing, photo editing, regular school stuff. All my emailing was on there, but I mean, I love nature documentaries. I'll watch them whenever I can. I think if that would be like a dream opportunity to get offered, is to go on like those 18-month shooting ventures with like a BBC crew or like the Disney Earth cruise or Nat Geo.
Oh my God, that would be so
they go
cool.
through some crazy stuff. Like watching the behind the scenes of Planet Earth 2, it makes me question whether I would actually be able to do it. But the footage they get is just, it gives me chills seeing it. And like the stories that nature provides you is just breathtaking.
Yeah.
Like that, like. It's truth is stranger than fiction. Like there's nothing truer than nature and what happens, and the fact that they are so able to beautifully capture what happens with no human intervention. That's what I love about Planet Earth the most. There's no humans involved. You know, it's just nature in its purest form and how it's beautiful, and we want you to see it. That would be the long form television or media creation I would want to be a part of.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you were like, whoa, that's a tough question to answer. You see that answer just now? That was fire.
I'm not that great at coming up with answers on the spot, so.
Thanks. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody has a piece of media that they're enthralled about.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, like, I'm sure there's a lot of things that, like, we would want to do, too. But
I mean, Cassie's currently obsessed with The Circle.
Oh, love that show.
Yeah,
I love it. Have you seen that show, Chris?
Is it on Netflix?
Yeah.
No, I have not.
Okay, so it's this new... I'm going to talk about
Here
this
we
right
go.
now. Cause
I
it's
mean, like,
amazing.
I knew you wanted to, so I gave you the segue.
Okay, so they created this new, like, reality show about social media. And I was like, this is going to be trash. Like, what can this possibly be? So they essentially take 8, but they have people that fill in for the people that get eliminated. 8 people, and they put them in like apartments and just like isolate them. And they have no technology, no nothing except for the circle. So it's pretty much just TVs in every room of their house, and it's voice activated. So you can make a profile. You can either make it of yourself or you can make a catfish profile. And you get thrown in with 8 people, and you have to like make friends and like figure out who's real, who's not, just by like it's talk to text. So you're just reading text off these TVs, and you don't get to speak to the person. You don't get to see people. You're just isolated, and then you have to like vote people out.
This sounds like the most toxic form of the internet.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. So
when she told me about it, I was like, wow, they're manifesting the terrible parts of the internet into a reality show.
They did. It's an experiment. So they wanted to see like the catfishes, how they would actually do in like a real life situation. And they captured it on camera, and then the winner, you rank people every day and like who you like and who you think's fake, whatever, and the winner gets $100,000. And they just like isolated these people. It was so fascinating. It just ended last night. Because they released it like every week instead of like just all at once.
Which more streaming services should do.
Yes. Oh, and they paid viewers to watch it. So they took a certain budget. I think they took like $20,000, and they're like, the first 20,000 people to put in your like email and whatever and your Venmo, we're gonna Venmo you money each week to watch it.
Were you one of the first 20,000?
No, I thought it was a scam. My friend did it though, and he got $5 the first day to watch it. Then when they launched it, it was like 80 cents, and then last night it was like 50 cents. But they still like paid people to watch it.
They literally paid people.
And
listen,
we
love $6.30.
I know.
We do.
I know.
We really do.
But it's still.
I mean, I segued you into this because like that's another great example of TV and like how many people went into working on that.
Yeah.
And it's such a different style, which is like why it's wonderful, because like there's so many ways you can do what we're learning how to do.
It would also be so cool to direct an episode of Jeopardy.
Oh my God.
Yes.
I have been on such a Jeopardy kick.
Ever since they threw Jeopardy on Netflix, man, that's all I needed.
Right.
That's all I needed.
Well, I feel like it would be smart for like one of these like streaming services to come up with, or like try and buy out Wheel of Fortune Jeopardy or something.
No, you're never going to take those off.
But then you release them only on Netflix. You think about how much money they would make back and forth.
It's too like pillar of modern TV right now.
Yeah, but cable TV's falling apart,
well,
bro.
Yeah, but it's going to
like
hang by the last
Yeah.
fiber optic cable it can.
Yeah, that's like the last thing keeping people from canceling their cable.
Which is why somebody's going to buy it. They always do.
It's going to just
always
ruin.
do.
That's just going to be the downfall of like actual.
Depending on who buys it. If Disney buys
Uh-huh.
it, then it'll be ruined because there'll be no non-Disney questions.
Well, listen, this is what's going to happen.
Don't hope for that, though.
Cable, yeah, will probably at some point fall apart. All of those premium cable channels or the regular cable channels are going to turn into their own streaming services. And then in like 15 years, maybe probably less than that because technology moves quick, there's going to be someone who comes up with, hey, listen, we'll come up with a service that puts all of your services in this group, and you can pay to have access to all of it without having to log in and out of each and every application. We'll just make it a shortcut. And then you're just going to have, you're going to go to guide on your subscription service program, and you're going to, I'm going to flip on Netflix, going to go watch a new episode of Stranger Things Season 8. And then we're going to go here, and then like, all right, sweet, a new episode of Rick and Morty is out on Hulu. Let me go there. And then Disney Plus, new episode of Mandalorian just came out. Let me go there. It's just going to be internet TV, and it's not going to be any different. I'm gonna look so stupid when people watch this in like 2030, and it's not.
It's just all cable television.
They go back to cable.
Yeah. Although I feel like this was like a this episode. You've had this.
Oh, I've been
discussion.
spoiling this.
Oh yeah,
yes.
I have.
He was like waiting for someone. This is the moment.
Listen, streaming services are so interesting to me because they're so revolutionary in their thought process when it comes to. I mean, you just asked for streaming services to wait to release content.
No,
imagine 8-year-old you who just watched an episode of Fear Factor and wanted to see the next one, and now you're seeing, 20-something-year-old you saying to wait for your content?
Well, so in my defense, since I started studying this stuff and like learning how to make it, it's like the people who make Stranger Things, So much effort goes into that show. It is a sci-fi show. There are special and visual effects. The post-production team and the production team are probably ridiculously big, and they get talked about for 3 days, and then it's old news because it drops and then it's done. So
Yeah, but think about that 3 days.
well, yeah, those 3 days, Mandalorian came out over 8 weeks and was constantly talked about.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
I was so hyped because like old TV viewing was a thing for a reason.
Yeah.
It was exciting to watch weekly. It's just when I was 8, I didn't have patience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. The only like difference between what you like want to happen, whatever, is you can just watch it at any time you want.
Yeah, but if it's there, I'm gonna watch it. Because then the internet's gonna spoil it too.
Listen, there's people like me that still want to be part of cable television, so give me a chance before you just write us off, please.
Well, that's the thing. That's another thing that really is bothersome to me is the whole internet thing, right? Is there was a point in time where, like, with cable TV, they were really good about not spoiling stuff.
Oh,
You know, like
God.
either they let it with a big spoiler alert before the text, or they just didn't do it at all. They would wait until the next episode came out or a couple days.
Yeah.
Now, like, what's a show that comes out weekly? Like Game of Thrones was a phenomenal example of this, right? I remember I didn't watch Game of Thrones for the first 4 seasons, and then I binged watched it in the summer, and then from each season there, I watched it weekly. The next 2 seasons, season 5 and 6, never got spoiled if I didn't watch it that night.
I know exactly what he's getting.
As soon as you get to season 7 and 8, people did not care. They were like, "Listen, I just watched it. It is 10:01. I'm gonna talk about it."
Yeah.
And on top of that, it wasn't even just talking about it. Memes were made from the episode. Like immediately.
Instantly.
I'm like, how did you already take the time to get this picture, make your caption, and post it? Like the episode just finished airing.
It's amazing too because that like led to me knowing what Game of Thrones was because I was one of the few people that like just didn't watch it. I just didn't have an interest in that genre of whatever, and I know everything about that show just by going on Twitter at 10:01 and just like reading.
Well,
And
another great example of it's The Bachelor. I've never watched a single episode of The Bachelor.
Neither have I.
And I know
wait,
so much
wait,
about the goddamn Bachelor.
Wait, okay, so I just went on a rant about this yesterday.
Yeah, to me.
Yes. So, The Bachelor is probably, please don't attack me for this. I've never watched it. I decided this season because there was so much hype about it on Twitter. I'm like, I have to see what the big deal is about the show. Let me just watch it. I spent the entire 2 hours for the 2-hour premiere cringing at everything that was said. It is probably the worst produced show I've ever watched in my life. I'm sorry,
But it hooks the people.
It hooks it's so interesting because I wanted to watch the second episode. I'm like, why?
Why?
Like I hated
They got
this so
you.
much, but
They
I
got
need to
you.
watch it. I get it. It's so bad that you have to keep watching.
I don't know. I've never been a big reality TV person. I think the only reality TV like I can go back and watch now is like Jersey Shore.
Oh, Lord.
Mainly because it's funny. Like it just turned out to be funny, and there's a lot of still really cringy stuff. Just because why would you ever act like that as a person? But it's genuinely funny.
Yeah.
Like there's actual funny and like I'm not gonna get into it, but it was genuinely funny, and it's still a pretty good show. And like Catfish is a pretty good reality TV show. I don't know how much of that is real. I'm not going to question it because at the end of the episode, I'm entertained.
Yeah.
You know, I'm genuinely going, wow, I can't believe that person turned out to be real. And, you know, the 1 in a billion times that happens. But I don't know. Reality TV is its own wacky little genre that will
makes
live
a ton of money.
Will live forever. Will continue to make money because people love watching other people be weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all it
true.
is.
Yeah.
True. I love that. Sorry. Yeah, but you know.
This is turning into its own episode, which we will have you back to with
Yeah,
other
we'll have to
people for
discuss
fun
it.
TV
Watch
discussion.
The Circle and come back and
We'll
will
do a
discuss
circle
it.
episode.
Yes.
Yeah.
But okay, so I want
Back
to
on
finally
track.
back on track. I really wanted to
Although
ask you this
that was a
question.
great rant.
Yes, that was a great rant. But so for the last 2 episodes, we started doing or asking guests former questions that we asked on past Q&As. So we wanted to ask you, if you weren't a communications major, what would you be?
Shout out to Lauren for the question.
Yes, our friend Chris knows
Lauren
very well.
Forte.
Yes.
Yes.
What's up, Lauren?
She's definitely watching this right now.
She's
so.
a big fan.
Yeah, she is a big fan.
Awesome. I minored in history, at Seton Hall. I've always been a big history guy. I would probably go into that. I actually thought about it. I still think about it for a while. I think about going back and getting my master's to profess one day. I think I just like teaching. I also just love talking.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's a great job for talking.
You could just talk all day, especially in history.
Yeah.
But I just love history. I love all aspects of it. I love historical fiction and nonfiction television, as well as I don't really read that much anymore. But when I was a kid, when I was forced to read, I read a lot of historical books, both fiction and nonfiction. I love it. I think there's just so much you can learn from history. There's a lot of wacky things that have happened in the past. And there's like a lot of like not known stuff. Like, did you guys know that Harriet Tubman, huge, well-known, slave freer in the United States, she is the first woman spy in United States military history. And on her first mission, she freed over 200 slaves in one night.
Wow.
That's
badass.
badass.
Downey failed to teach us that. Not for nothing.
Yeah.
But wow.
Wow.
Like, there's
Wow.
crazy
Did not
little
know that.
tidbits of history from all over the world. And that's the thing. You can go, there's so many times in history, places in history, places that no longer exist, times that, the culture has changed. It's so many things you could learn.
Yeah, and I think too, like, that could relate to your job somehow one day. You never know. You could be making one of those TV historical shows that you love so
Listen,
much.
we love Ken Burns.
Oh, we do love
We
Ken Burns.
salute Ken Burns.
We salute
for
Ken
his,
Burns.
addition to society and in his many, many, many historical documentaries. I mean, he's just incredible.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like he gets slept on now because nobody wants to watch that long.
Well,
of
I mean, you have to really
things.
be in the mood for I have to be in the mood for Ken
Well,
Burns.
I feel like it's one of those, like, I wake up, it's 8 a.m., I have nothing to do. Let's do this.
Yeah.
Just look at him like, let's go.
you get it going.
Time to
But,
watch baseball.
if
Ken
it's
Burns
like
documentary
a Saturday
again.
night at 6 and you're wondering what to do, Ken Burns documentaries are usually not up at the list. But
Yeah.
they're still great and you're going to learn a lot.
Yeah.
It's great.
Alrighty, well,
Yeah.
I think we're running out of time, unfortunately. But before we go, Chris, look at this lovely camera right here. Tell all these people where they can find your face on the internet or
man.
various TV shows.
Oh, wow. Well,
Drop your social media, drop everything.
Whatever you want.
Well, if you would like, you can follow me on Twitter. I very rarely tweet, but usually most of the time it's when I feel very strongly about something.
Yes.
You can follow me on Twitter I think it's at Chris Famularo. Same at for Instagram. If you would like to follow me there, add me on LinkedIn, same name.
Heck yeah.
My LinkedIn, you can find my resume there. I have some
Hire him.
past video production I have done, both at Seton Hall. Don't add me on Facebook. Facebook I only use to see what my family is doing and if I'm in any groups are a part of that.
Yeah.
And
tell them which shows you work on and stuff.
Oh, for SNY, well, I've worked on a lot. I just recently got my first professional crediting with SNY.
Hey,
The end
yo.
of the year credits came out, so I work on pretty much all SNY shows. They're daily shows, which are The Thread, Loudmouths, and Baseball Night in New York, as well as Geico Sports Night, which happens at 11. I have worked on Mets pre- and post-game, Jets pre- and post-game, UConn pre- and post-game. You guys can sense a reoccurring thing here.
Yes.
And Mets Hot Stove. Those are the shows I work on at SNY.
Nice.
So
yeah. Shout out to the New York Jets, by the way. Just saying.
I guess. Shout out to the New York Jets.
I guess.
I guess.
That
It's
should be
fine.
their
It's fine.
2020 motto.
Yeah. Shout out to the New York. Well, that's pretty much all of, I'm a Jets fan. So that's pretty much our attitude. It's like,
I guess.
you're good, I guess. Not really.
New York sports
Still love
isn't very
'em.
good now.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Oh,
That'll change. But
Yeah.
thanks for having me on, guys. I told you guys before I came on, I've been so excited to be a part of this. I love this. I love what you guys are doing, and I can't wait to meet some of the other people that you guys have already had on and see all the other people that you're going to have on.
Thank
I
you.
mean,
Yeah, no.
thank
Keep it
you.
up. You guys do a great job, and I'm glad that I could be a part of it.
Thank you so much
Yeah.
for being here. We appreciate it.
Of course.
Thanks so
yeah.
much.
Thanks for the support, and it's great seeing you again.
Yeah, it's good seeing you guys as
Yeah.
well, and I'm sure I will see you soon.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And thank you, everybody, for watching or listening, and we will see you soon. Now, that's a pod, baby. With new gear. Ooh.
Brandy new.